Heartwarming encounter: how a black waitress helped a billionaire dad transform his life in 30 incredible days. Jamila wiped down a table, her heart echoing with the hum of the diner. The bright red booths, chipped but charming, were filled with laughter and the comforting scent of pancakes mingled with coffee. Here, in this bustling downtown diner, she felt at home. Smiles flashed around her like neon signs as she took orders, always aware of the ticking clock. Her world outside these walls was a whirlwind of shifts and medical appointments for her ailing mother. But in the diner, amidst the clattering dishes and friendly faces, she found solace, when Ethan, a well-dressed stranger, entered her life. His crisp suit screamed wealth, the polished shoes didn't quite fit in with the diner's casual vibe. He often slipped into a booth in the corner, exuding a sense of detachment as his eyes scanned the menu without really seeing it. Each morning, Jamila approached his table, pouring coffee and offering a warm smile, yet the man seemed lost, adrift in his thoughts. "Coffee?" she asked, her voice light and inviting. "How is it today?" He looked up, momentarily breaking through his fog. "It's fine," he muttered, his voice heavy with the weight of unexpressed burdens. Their conversations began simply, a gradual surfacing of shared stories over coffee refills. Jamila spoke of art, her dreams simmering quietly under the weight of responsibility. Ethan shared glimmers of his life, the emotional distance from his daughter, Emma, a chasm carved by ambition and the demands of corporate life. They found themselves discussing the relentless chase for success and the sacrifices made along the way. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As days turned into weeks, Jamila's spirited resilience became a beacon for Ethan. Every time he found himself confiding in her about his struggles with expectations, she met him with warmth, her laughter ringing like a melody, and suddenly, the burdens he carried felt lighter. But one fateful day, a crisis at home jolted Jamila back to stark reality. Her mother's illness had worsened, leaving her scrambling for medical expenses and care. Ethan noticed the change, the shadows under her eyes and the tremble in her hands shook him deep. He offered to help, his wealth could ease her burdens, but Jamila's fierce independence surged forth. "I can't accept that," she declared, her pride nauseatingly tangled with fear. "I need to do this on my own." Their debate ignited emotional sparks that danced around the diner, challenging both of them. Ethan felt the sting of her refusal. All the privilege and wealth he had amassed, bared against her struggle. He couldn't let go of the anger bubbling within. Was helping a friend a privilege or a betrayal? With their hearts pounding, they found themselves staring into each other's souls. This moment was charged, the tension wrapping around them like a taut wire. Jamila reached into her apron pocket, pulling out her simple drawing of a family portrait sketched in pencil, a vision of unity and love. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling what it meant to face one's truth. Would he continue chasing this abstract idea of success, or dive deep into the ties that truly anchored life? As he wrestled with that thought, the bell above the door jingled, signaling new arrivals and a heartbeat of uncertainty that left the air thick with anticipation. What choice would he make? Would he reach for redemption or slip away into the shadows of his past? Ethan stood at the crossroads of his emotions, the weight of Jamila's stare pulling on his heartstrings. He felt so disconnected from everything that mattered, his life reduced to meetings and numbers, while she embodied spirit and struggle. The clanging of dishes and the laughter of children from a nearby booth faded away as he remembered how he used to play with Emma, how he used to be present. The thought gnawed at him. How had he let ambition steal those moments? His gaze fell to the drawing in Jamila's hand, the innocent depiction of a family's love. It was something he had taken for granted. As an older couple shared a knowing glance across the diner, Ethan felt a surge of determination. "I want to help, Jamila." "You don't have to do this alone," he said, his voice firmer than before. "Let me at least help with medical bills." "No." She interrupted, her voice cracked with urgency. "I can't do that. You can't just save me with your money. I need to find my own way." A pained silence wrapped around them, heavy with unspoken feelings. The others in the diner carried on, oblivious to their turmoil. "I understand," he said finally, his heart sinking. "But part of me wants to stop living in a bubble. I want to feel like I'm making a difference, and that includes you." Jamila's expression softened for a brief moment, but she shook her head firmly. "You're not responsible for my life or my struggles." He could see her resolve was unwavering. Yet beneath the strength lay a vulnerability he wanted to explore. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, Emma texted, filling his phone with bright notifications. "Dad, can we talk?" Caught between the two significant women in his life, Ethan felt torn. As he read the message, the ghost of a smile crept onto his face, picturing his daughter's unwavering optimism. "Here's the thing," he said, tearing his eyes from the screen to focus on Jamila. "I can't fix your problems, but I can be here for you. You don't have to take my money if it's uncomfortable, but, what about company? What if I just keep showing up, being a friend?" Jamila's brow furrowed at the suggestion. "You'd want to stick around?" "Yes. I realize it might sound selfish, but I need this too. I need to reconnect with what matters." "Okay," she answered hesitantly, glancing downward. "But only if it's about friendship, Ethan. If it turns into pity, I won't accept it." "Deal," he replied, a rush of relief flooding him. As they settled into an uncharted territory of camaraderie, the diner felt less like a backdrop and more like a shared canvas for their new beginnings. The vibrant whispers of patrons swirled around them, yet through it all, a sense of purpose flickered like the neon lights outside. Days turned into weeks, and their intermittent laughter began weaving a fragile thread between them. Meanwhile, Jamila's mother's condition remained precarious, and her struggles grew heavier. Each visit Ethan made felt a sense of urgency bloom in the air. It was during these shared moments that secrets blossomed, and eyes began to open wider to each other's truths. One afternoon, as the sun cascaded through the diner windows, Jamila turned to look at Ethan, an uncharacteristic seriousness spreading across her face. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." The room paused as the ambience thickened with anticipation. What profound truth lay behind her hesitant tone? Would it bring them closer, or shatter the delicate bond they had begun to forge? Ethan felt his heart race, caught in the urgency of that moment. Would this be the revelation he had been waiting for, or something that could tear them apart? Ethan held his breath, his heart pounding like a drum. The diner buzzed around them, but in that moment, it felt like they were the only two souls left in the world. Jamila's eyes danced with a mix of fear and hope, and he could sense the weight of her words hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. "What is it, Jamila?" he asked gently, leaning closer, trying to bridge the invisible gap between them. She took a deep breath, her hands nervously twisting the paper of the drawing. "My mother, she's not just sick, Ethan. It's worse than I've told you. She has stage 4 cancer. We've been fighting it for a while now, but..." Her voice trailed off, and Ethan could see the tears welling up in her eyes. Everything else faded into the background as his heart clenched tighter. The laughter of the children, the clinking of dishes, it all felt distant and surreal. "I'm so sorry, Jamila," he murmured, wishing he could take away her pain or at least share the burden. "I've been trying to stay strong for her, but it's hard. Every day feels like a battle," she admitted, her voice thick with emotion. "I feel myself slipping, and I didn't want to let you in on my struggles. I didn't want you to feel sorry for me." Ethan reached across the table, his hand covering hers, wanting to offer comfort. "You don't have to go through it alone," he said softly. You can lean on me. I'm here for you, whatever that looks like. Jamila gazed into his eyes, searching for sincerity. In that moment, he realized that her strength stemmed from her vulnerability. You don't know what that means, she whispered, tears escaping despite her restraint. I'm usually the one taking care of everyone, and it feels like I've lost myself in the process. He could feel her pain penetrate his own guarded heart. They both had been through their own storms, but here they were, standing at the edge of something beautiful, forged from their collective struggles. Can I come with you to see her? He asked, surprising himself. I want to help. Even if it's just being there. The warmth of her gaze was almost palpable. You really mean that? She asked, a flicker of hope igniting within her. Absolutely, he said, his conviction stronger than ever. You've shown me how to feel again, how to reconnect with what truly matters. It's my turn to be present for you. Jamila nodded slowly, a smile breaking through the tears. Okay. I would like that. Their hands lingered together a moment longer before she pulled back, a cautious but brighter energy sparkling between them. Ethan knew this was a turning point, a leap into uncharted territory that could either build them up or test their resolve. As they parted that day, Ethan felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. Yet, a knot of uncertainty remained. He had stepped into her world and embraced her struggles, but what if he couldn't keep up? The journey ahead promised challenges he had never suspected. That night, as he sat with Emma, sharing popcorn and laughter while watching a movie together, a haunting thought nagged at him. What if his past mistakes were too severe to heal? But just as he felt himself spiraling into doubt, Emma turned to him, her brows raised in curiosity. What is going on, Dad? You seem different. Is it Jamila? Ethan paused, unsure how to articulate the whirlwind of emotion. Yeah, it's complicated. The flickering light from the television danced across Emma's face, illuminating her wide, innocent eyes. Complicated is okay. Just make sure you're really in it for her, not just to feel better about yourself. Her words struck him like a lightning bolt, grounding him in the present moment. You're right, he replied, feeling the gravity of his daughter's wisdom. When he glanced back at Jamila the next day, he found her preparing for the toughest fight yet, and he was determined to stand by her side. But with each step they took together, he still had to answer a pressing question. How much could he truly give without losing himself again? The uncertainty loomed, but he knew one thing for certain: whatever happened next would change both their lives forever. Ethan stood at the edge of Jamila's street, anxiety swirling in his stomach like a storm. He had come to admire her strength, but he also knew the road ahead would not be easy. With each step towards her home, he felt the weight of his own uncertainties pressing down on him. What if he fumbled? What if he couldn't be the support she needed? The soft chirping of birds fought against the heavy silence of the morning as he approached her modest house. It was the kind of home that radiated warmth, despite the shadows hinting at the struggles within. He knocked lightly on the door, his heart racing at the thought of what lay beyond. When Jamila opened the door, the world behind her dimmed in contrast to the light in her eyes. Ethan, she breathed, her voice almost a whisper. The smile that spread across her face was fragile yet hopeful, as if it were a beacon guiding him through her turmoil. Hey. Ready? He asked, trying to muster a confidence he wasn't sure he had. She nodded, her expression shifting between nerves and gratitude. I think so, she replied, and he could see the tremble in her hands. As they settled into the car, a comfortable silence enveloped them. The ride felt surreal. The familiar streets seemed less vibrant, more like a backdrop to the weight of what they were about to face. Ethan only broke the silence when he found a moment of courage. It's okay to be scared, you know. Jamila looked out the window, her fingers twisting a strand of hair. I am scared. But I'm more scared of being alone in this. Her voice cracked, and Ethan felt a tug at his heart. He reached for her hand, and this time, she took it without hesitation. When they arrived at the hospital, the reality of the situation rushed over them like a tide. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the sterile scent of antiseptics was almost suffocating. Ethan felt a wave of nausea, not for himself, but for Jamila. He squeezed her hand tighter, grounding them both as they walked down the hall. "Just breathe," he whispered, watching her face closely. She was trying to muster the courage he admired, yet he could see her fighting back tears. As they approached the room, Jamila hesitated. "What if she doesn't recognize me? What if?" "Hey," Ethan interrupted gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Just be you." He watched her take in a deep breath, lacing all her fears into that breath before stepping through the door. The sight inside was like a painful echo. A frail woman lay in the hospital bed, surrounded by monitors and the beeping machinery that made her existence feel both fragile and sacred. The moment seemed to hang in the air, heavy with unspoken words. "Mom?" Jamila's voice broke, and the room shifted as her mother turned her head. The recognition sparked a flicker of light in the otherwise somber atmosphere. "What took you so long?" Her mother responded, a soft smile spreading despite her weakened state. Jamila rushed to her side, tears slipping down her cheeks as she took her mother's hand, cradling it between hers. Ethan lingered a step back, watching their reunion unfold. He felt like an intruder, but also a silent partner in this moment of love and anguish. The strength of their bond was palpable, a testament to the battles they had fought together. He turned away to give them privacy, his heart swelling with admiration for Jamila. He could feel how desperately she needed this connection, and it made him realize how intertwined their fates had become. As the minutes passed, he couldn't help but wonder how he could help them both through this haunting ordeal. Just then, he heard Jamila's mother whisper a single phrase that froze him in place: "You're not alone anymore, sweetheart." Those words resonated with him. What if they all needed to embrace that truth, their connections, their fears, their hopes? But more importantly, what would that mean for him when the inevitable storm arrived? The uncertainty loomed heavier than ever, but as he glanced back at Jamila, he resolved to stand firm. He knew now that he was more invested than he had ever thought possible, and the question echoed louder in his mind: how would they navigate this journey together? Ethan stood just outside the door as Jamila and her mother exchanged soft words, a world of love wrapped in silence. He watched their hands clasped together, the lines of worry slowly easing on Jamila's face as her mother tried to stay strong. It was a tender moment, but Ethan could sense the layers of pain shadowing it all. After a while, he decided to step back into their space, his gaze on their faces. Jamila's mother's eyes had glistened with moisture, and he could feel the electricity in the air shift as their bond reignited. "I'm so glad you're here," Jamila murmured, her voice thick from emotion. Her mother nodded, a fragile smile still gracing her lips despite the weariness etched in every line of her face. "I didn't want you to be alone," she whispered, looking at Ethan as though she recognized his unspoken role. For Ethan, those words were a lifeline. He couldn't help but feel that they were all dangling on the edge of something profound, an understanding shifting in the air around them. "I'm here for you, all of you," he said, his voice steady, even as his heart raced. Jamila looked up at him, seemingly reassured by his presence. They fell into a rhythm of conversation, a gentle exchange punctuated by laughter and moments of sadness. It was a bittersweet melody. Ethan found himself sharing stories to dispel the heaviness, each word an attempt to bring a little light into their situation. "Remember when we used to play those silly games at the park?" Jamila's mother asked her, a soft chuckle escaping her lips. Jamila's eyes sparkled with distant memories, and for a fleeting moment, the shadows lifted as they relived their shared joy. "Yeah. And you always lost to Mom because she's a cheat," Jamila teased, wiping a curious tear off her face. Laughter erupted, bringing warmth into the room despite the chill of the hospital air. Ethan watched them and felt a swell of hope. Healing would take time, but this moment here, together, was a step in the right direction. If they could laugh, could celebrate the little things even amidst a storm, then maybe everything would be okay. As they settled into another round of stories, Jamila slightly shifted in her chair. "Mom, remember when you taught me how to ride a bike?" she asked, her voice softening. Her mother beamed, a spark of pride lighting up her features. They spoke about the wobbly moments, the little victories, and how Jamila had finally nailed it with a triumphant smile that stayed with her for days. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He realized how important those memories were, how they fortified their bond. The bond of laughter, the shared stories. They would be their armor against the uncertainties racing at them, but just as light seemed to permeate the dark corners of the room, Jamila's mother's expression shifted, and the reality of her condition came crashing back down. She winced, her breath catching sweetly with an unspoken reminder of her fragility. The moment was delicate, the laughter fading. Ethan sensed the air thicken with an unshakable weight. "Mom?" Jamila's voice trembled, panic dancing in her words. "I'm okay. Just tired," her mother replied, a brave smile failing to mask the truth. They exchanged glances filled with unsaid fears, and Ethan's heart ached for them both. This was only the beginning. Their journey had just started, and it was going to be hard. He reached for Jamila's hand again, squeezing gently. "We'll get through this," he said softly, yet certainty flickered inside him. Even in darkness, hope could find a way. He didn't know how, but he understood they would need to lean on each other, to share their fears, and to hold tight to the moments that mattered. But as he gathered courage enough to say more, the distant beeping of a monitor interrupted, drawing them back to the reality that loomed over them. Jamila's eyes widened, and her grip tightened. "Ethan, what if," she began, but he could see she couldn't finish her thought. He took a breath, recognizing the unspoken question: what if everything suddenly changed? What if that hope slipped away? In that instant, time seemed to freeze. The weight of vulnerability settled around them, and Ethan understood that the love they shared could not erase their fears, but it could illuminate the way forward. "Let us talk, just us," he suggested, nodding toward the door. Jamila met his gaze, her worry mixed with a glint of trust. What lay ahead felt uncertain, but it was clear that every step they took, every moment shared, would shape their path onward together. They wouldn't be alone in this, but as they moved forward, they would have to confront their greatest trials. What would they uncover in the rooms of unspoken emotions? Could love and vulnerability intertwine to become their shield against the storm? Ethan and Jamila stepped out into the dimly lit hallway, the fluorescent lights buzzing softly above them. He could still feel the warmth of the shared moments lingering in the air, but now the weight of uncertainty hung heavier than before. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and careful. Jamila nodded slowly, her eyes darting to the tiles beneath their feet. I don't want to think about what happens next," she admitted, vulnerability seeping through her usual strength. Ethan could see the flicker of fear in her expression, deepening with every moment of silence. "Neither do I," he replied, "but we have to face it, don't we?" He felt her gaze lift to meet his, and for a brief moment, he wanted to shield her from everything. He wished he could take away her pain, her fears, but he knew that wasn't his place. If she was going to face what was coming, it would be better together. "Yeah, I guess we do," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just don't know how to do it, how to be strong when everything feels so broken." Ethan paused, searching for the right words. "You've already shown strength," he reminded her. "Staying here for your mom, sharing stories, laughing together, that's the kind of strength that matters. It's not always about being brave in a big way." She looked at him, eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. "What if it's not enough?" Jamila's voice broke a little, and Ethan felt his heart ache as he navigated her storm of emotions. "It will be enough if you let it be," he said, the conviction in his voice surprising even him. "Your love is powerful. You just need to believe that." Just then, a nurse rounded the corner, clipboard in hand. Jamila tensed slightly but forced herself to smile. "Is everything okay with my mom?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. The nurse nodded, noticing the worry on their faces. "She's resting for now. They've adjusted her medication, and we're watching closely. But we need to keep her calm. Ethan could see Jamila fight back her rising fear. It took everything in him not to reach out again. Instead, he offered a reassuring smile. "Let us find a place to sit, huh?" They made their way to a waiting area just down the hall. A plush but worn sofa faced a window that looked out over the hospital grounds. The twilight sky cast a soft glow, muted yet comforting. Ethan settled into the couch, gesturing for Jamila to join him. "Do you want to talk about your mom?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then shook her head. "I don't think I can. I just want to think about anything else." "Okay," he said, adjusting his position. "Then let's talk about us." A shadow danced across her features. "Us? What do you mean? What makes us tick? What do we love? Just share something fun." He flashed a playful grin, and though her tension didn't leave, he saw her lips start to curl upward. "Fine," she stumbled, pulling her legs up onto the couch and hugging her knees. "What's your favorite pizza topping?" He chuckled, caught off guard by the sudden normalcy of the question. "Pepperoni all the way," he exclaimed, mimicking an enthusiastic pizza chef. "How about you?" "Pineapple." She shot back, mock indignation on her face. "It adds sweetness." Ethan couldn't help but laugh, the tension slowly uncoiling between them. Sweetness should never be mixed with savory. He shook his head in disbelief, and Jamila burst into laughter, the sound a delightful balm for his heart. "Okay, let us start a debate," she grinned. "Best movie of all time?" "Hands down, it's The Shawshank Redemption," Ethan answered, seriousness dancing with mischief. Jamila tilted her head, raising an eyebrow. "Really? You don't think it's overrated?" As they exchanged playful banter, he noticed the momentary glow in her eyes. It was a glimpse of the girl she'd been, unbroken and vibrant, even amidst the clouds, but just as the laughter swelled, it was pierced by the distant sound of footsteps. Before they could pivot back to lighter topics, a doctor entered the waiting area. The air shifted again. Jamila's joyful spark faded, dread overshadowed the moment. Ethan turned to meet her worried gaze, the playfulness tumbling into silence. "What now?" she whispered, her anxiety creeping back in. The doctor approached them with a serious demeanor, and the instant felt heavy, like a pebble dropped into still water. "I have some news about your mother," he said, his voice calm yet charged with urgency. Ethan's heart raced. Everything felt poised on the edge, and Jamila's grip on his hand tightened. What would they face next? Ethan held his breath, feeling the weight of Jamila's hand in his as the doctor continued. The air in the room thickened with anticipation. "What's going on with her?" Jamila's voice broke through, trembling with barely suppressed fear. The doctor cleared his throat, taking a moment to measure his words carefully. "Your mother's condition has changed. We're facing some complications, and we need to discuss options moving forward." Ethan's stomach dropped. He glanced at Jamila, whose eyes widened, shimmering with unshed tears. "Complications? What kind of complications?" she managed to ask, her voice steely yet lined with fragility. The doctor hesitated, the moment hanging heavy like an unwelcome ghost. "She's responding less to the treatment than we hoped. We may need to consider a few different approaches." Ethan felt Jamila's grip tighten even more, her fingers trembling now. He didn't know what to say or do, but he found himself instinctively moving closer to her. He could sense the panic rising within her, an emotional tide threatening to drown them both. "Can't you just change medications again?" Jamila interrupted, her voice a fierce whisper. "Just try something else." The doctor nodded, though his eyes reflected the deep concern echoed in his words. "We are exploring all options, but we must prepare for multiple outcomes. I don't want to sugarcoat this." Jamila's resolve faltered. Tears finally escaped her eyes, glistening like fallen stars on her cheeks. "No, no," she whispered, losing her breath momentarily. Ethan's heart ached. He wanted to reach out, to pull her back from this brink. But what could he say? What words could possibly ease the pain of what lay ahead? "Jamila," he said softly, his voice laced with warmth. "Whatever happens, you're not alone. I'm right here." But as she turned to meet his gaze, he saw a flicker of anger mixed with despair. "Right here isn't enough. What if this doesn't end well? I can't." Her voice cracked, and the tidal wave of her fear rolled back in. The doctor spoke gently, transitioning the topic. "Would you like to see your mother now? It might help comfort you both." Jamila drew in a shaky breath and nodded jerkily. Ethan felt an overwhelming urge to protect her as they rose from the couch. He stepped beside her, their shoulders brushing as they walked toward the room. The familiar hum of the hospital lights faded behind them, replaced by the sound of their footsteps echoing in the long corridor. When they reached the door, Jamila hesitated, her palms resting against the cool metal. "Ethan, what if I can't do it? What if I break?" He turned to her, his expression firm and sincere. "Then you let yourself break. And I'll be here to put the pieces back together. That's what we do. We share the burdens." With a deep breath, Jamila nodded and finally opened the door. As they stepped inside, Ethan was struck by the sight of her mother, an almost ethereal figure lying fragile against the stark white sheets. Her eyes flickered open at the sound of their entrance. "There's my girl," she whispered, her voice raspy but warm. Jamila rushed forward, collapsing into her mother's embrace, tears spilling freely now. Ethan stayed back for a moment, his heart swelling at the sight of their connection. But even in the tender moment, he felt the uncertainty creeping back, lingering in the air like an uninvited guest. As he stood, contemplating whether to step closer or give them space, a thought lodged itself firmly in his mind: the reality of the time they had left could change everything. And just then, the doctor's voice echoed in his head again. "We must prepare for multiple outcomes." That word "prepare" turned over in Ethan's mind. He needed to think of ways to help Jamila through this. But how? He took a deep breath. Whatever it took, they would rise together from this, united. But would they find the strength when it was needed most? The question lingered in his mind as he stepped cautiously toward them, feeling the weight of the moment pulsing around him. "Jamila," he said softly, his voice cutting gently through their reunion. "We're going to face this together." But as he caught her gaze through the tears, he wasn't sure if he believed it all. The storm was ahead, and he couldn't shake the sense that something was about to shift drastically. What would that shift reveal? Ethan took a step forward, wanting nothing more than to be a solid presence in this heavy moment. Jamila's mother, Alicia, cradled her daughter tightly. They were enveloped in a cocoon of familiarity and love, and for a brief instant, the loud beeping of machines faded into the background. "There's so much I want to tell you, sweetheart," Alicia whispered, her voice weaker than it had been. It was a strain, but it turned into a soothing melody, wrapping around them like a hug. Jamila pulled back slightly to study her mother's face, every line, every shadow throwing her heart into turmoil. "Mom, please don't," Jamila started, her emotions surging again, but Alicia simply raised a hand to hush her. "Let me speak, okay? Just for a moment." There was a kind of strength in her mother's voice, an unyielding resolve that Ethan admired. He could learn a thing or two from that spirit. Either way, he positioned himself closer, wanting her to know she was not alone in this. "Remember when I told you about that trip I took to the coast? When I saw the sunlight dance across the waves?" Alicia continued, eyes shimmering with a mixture of joy and sadness. Jamila nodded slowly, her lips quivering. "How can I forget? I didn't just see light. I felt it. That's how I want you to remember this time, too. It's going to be hard, but don't let it steal your light, Jamila. Life has so much beauty, even in the darkest moments," Alicia said. The words hung in the air, a bittersweet essence drifting between them. Emotion washed over Jamila's face, pain and love intermingling until Ethan was convinced he could almost see the currents colliding. He felt compelled to speak but chose to remain silent, letting this exchange unfold. It was their moment, and he didn't want to disturb the fragile equilibrium that existed between them. "Mom, I'm scared," Jamila eventually admitted, voice small, breaking the spell. "I know, baby. But together, we'll face this. You've inherited my strength, you know that?" Alicia murmured, her gaze drifting toward Ethan, as if she were acknowledging his presence. "And we have each other." Ethan felt a swell of emotion, a mixture of admiration and love for both women as they confronted the uncertainty together. He wished he could promise Jamila that everything would be okay. But there were no guarantees in life, not now. All he could do was support her, be her anchor. Suddenly, the hospital room seemed to pulse with an impending shift. The quiet was broken by a knock at the door, followed by a nurse entering. The warmth in the room instantly felt disrupted. "Ms. Thompson," the nurse said, "I'm here for an immediate assessment. You may need to step out for just a moment." Jamila's face fell, and worry wrinkled her brow. But Alicia squeezed her hand gently. "It's okay. I'll be right here, watching over you. Remember that. You're so much stronger than you think." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on Jamila's shoulder. "Simon, let us step out for a moment. Just breathe," he advised gently yet firmly, knowing it would help her regain some semblance of control. As they stepped into the hallway, Jamila pressed her palms into her eyes. "I can't. What if they take longer? What if, hey, we're in this together," Ethan reminded her, kneeling slightly to make eye contact. "You and your mom have a connection that nothing can break. Hold on to that. Whatever happens, you're not alone, even when it feels too heavy to bear." "But what if she needs me?" Jamila's voice cracked, the weight of the situation crashing down on her again. Ethan felt the tears forming in his own eyes. "Then we'll find a way to be there. But right now, we have to be calm, 1 minute at a time." They shared a deep breath, the thick tension easing just a bit. Just as he thought they might find a shred of relief, distant voices echoed from the examination room, voices laced with urgency. "Should we go back in?" Jamila asked hesitantly, biting her lip. Ethan hesitated, taking in the sound, his chest tightening. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together, remember? We can handle this even if it's hard to understand." Just then, the door to the examination room swung open wide, revealing the nurse's worried expression. "We need you both, now." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. Jamila's eyes met his, filled with fear but also determination. This was at the moment when everything could change. How would they face whatever news awaited them outside? The urgency in the nurse's face sent a jolt through Ethan and Jamila as they hurried back into the examination room. The bright fluorescent lights cast shadows that danced across the walls, blending the sterile environment with the anxious energy of two hearts racing. Alicia lay in bed, eyes fluttering as she took in her daughter's presence. "What's happening?" Jamila asked, voice barely more than a whisper. The nurse took a deep breath, her tone switching to professional but not lacking warmth. "We need to monitor your mother's condition closely. There's been a change." The nurse paused, eyes darting briefly to Alicia, who nodded slightly as if to assure them it was okay to continue. "Her heart rate has been fluctuating, and we want to ensure she gets the right care. We'll need to run a few more tests." Jamila took a step forward, her heart pounding. "Is she going to be okay?" The nurse tried to reassure her with a nod. "We'll do everything we can. But we need you to stay calm. It's important for your mother." Ethan held Jamila's hand, feeling the tremors of her anxiety travel through their clasped fingers. He wished he had the right words, something that could dissolve the tension hanging thick in the air. Alicia's gaze met his, and in that fleeting moment, there was recognition. "Ethan," Alicia said softly, her voice clearer now, "you've been a rock for her. Thank you for being here." Despite the gravity of the situation, a warmth spread in Ethan's chest at her words. He straightened, trying to absorb her strength and pass it to Jamila as best he could. "Whatever happens, we're in this together," he whispered to her, squeezing her hand a little tighter. Jamila's eyes sparkled with unshed tears, and he could see the battle within her wanting to break down but fighting to hold on for her mother. "Mom," Jamila said, unable to keep the tremor from her voice, "you need to fight, okay? We're not ready to let you go." Alicia looked at her daughter with a smile that could light up a cloudy day, even in the midst of uncertainty. "I'm not going anywhere yet, baby. Not while I have my sunshine with me." As if on cue, the room dimmed as the medical equipment beeped steadily, grounding Jamila and Ethan in a reality they weren't prepared for. Jamila wiped a tear that had escaped down her cheek, the moisture serving as a tangible reminder of everything at stake. "Can we talk to the doctor?" Ethan asked the nurse, hoping for clarity in the storm of emotions and worry. "Of course, I'll call him in now," she replied gently, stepping out to give them a moment of privacy. "Why does everything feel so heavy?" Jamila said, frustration mingling with despair in her voice. Ethan looked around the room, feeling the weight of it all. "Because it is heavy," he said honestly. "But you're handling it. Look at how you're here for your mom. That matters." Alicia kept her eyes on her daughter, full of love. "Focus on the light, Jamie. Remember the coast? Keep looking for that light. It's still there." The word seemed to resonate, a familiar echo that tugged at Jamila's heart even as new fears crept in. What if that light started to fade? Ethan hoped for more time, for them to create new memories rather than continue fearing the end of the old ones. The door swung open again, and in stepped the doctor, a kind expression on his face but eyes that held the weight of the world. "Good to see you awake, Alicia," he said, and she nodded weakly. "Let's discuss what's been happening." As he began explaining, Ethan sensed the palpable shift in the atmosphere, an electric awareness of what lay ahead. Jamila squeezed his hand again, eyes glued to her mother, where every word mattered. "Where do we go from here?" Ethan thought, bracing for the upcoming shift as anticipation crackled around them. This felt too important. They were on the precipice of something that could either heal or break them further. What would the conversation bring? Would they find hope, or was it merely the beginning of an unraveling they were not ready to face? The hospital room was heavy with unspoken questions and the palpable tension of uncertainty. Alicia was now wide awake, her gaze steady on the doctor, though fatigue etched the lines on her face. Jamila's heart thudded in her chest as she clutched Ethan's hand, anchoring herself against the rapid tide of emotions that threatened to sweep her away. "Your mother's status has changed," the doctor began, his voice calm yet authoritative. "We want to conduct a few more tests to determine the best course of action." Jamila felt Ethan's squeeze on her hand tighten, the gesture a subtle reminder that she was not facing this alone. "Tests?" Jamila echoed, confusion knitting her brow. "What kind of tests?" "They will help us assess her heart function and monitor her overall condition more closely." The doctor's brow furrowed slightly. "It is normal for patients in her situation to experience fluctuations, but we want to be proactive." The familiar walls of the hospital felt like they were closing in, and Jamila's breath quickened. "Proactive how?" she pressed, trying to pierce through the fog of medical jargon. "Honestly, we need to prepare for various outcomes," he said slowly, letting the weight of the statement settle. "These conversations are not easy, and I understand how difficult this is for both of you." His gaze shifted to Alicia, who squeezed Jamila's hand in a show of strength. "I'm not going anywhere," Alicia murmured, though the fragility in her voice cast a long shadow across the room. Ethan glanced between them, feeling the raw love that flowed in their connection. "You said it's about facing the light, right?" he said softly to Jamila, trying to draw strength from the warmth of Alicia's words. "That's what we'll do. We're here for you." Jamila bit her lip, tears welling up as she fought the urge to let them fall. But what if the uncertainty loomed large, threatening to swallow her whole? Alicia lifted her free hand, brushing away Jamila's tears with the gentleness only a mother could possess. "Sweetheart, it's okay to be scared. I am, too. But together, we can still create those beautiful moments even now." Ethan caught Jamila's eye, hope flickering between them like a fragile flame. "Remember the times you smiled? The laughter you shared?" he asked, attempting to spark the embers of joy in the midst of fear. "Those memories are your light. Let them guide you." "Everything feels so broken right now," Jamila admitted, a shaky confession that echoed deep within her soul. "Then let it break," Alicia whispered, vulnerability threading through her words. "But know this, love will always find a way to put us back together." The atmosphere shifted, lighter now, as if the love binding them forged a barrier against the darkness. Jamila's breath evened out, each inhale infused with the warmth radiating from her mother. Together she murmured, testing the word on her lips, feeling its power. The doctor continued, now shifting the focus toward options, potential paths that could unfold. "This is where we need your input, both of you. We can discuss next steps. Whatever we decide will be in alignment with her comfort." Jamila nodded, feeling empowered, pulling Ethan's hand into her own, entwining their fingers. "We're in this together, Mom. Whatever you want. I just want to see you both live fully even in this chaos." Alicia smiled softly, her voice steadying Jamila. "That's what will keep me strong." And suddenly, amidst the maze of uncertainty, clarity emerged. Standing there, hand in hand, they faced whatever came next as a team, three hearts operating in unison. Jamila felt a renewed energy flowing through her. She was ready to ride the storm. Hours passed like fleeting moments as they discussed options, weaving through conversations filled with both hope and necessity. The doctor offered insights, guidance painting a picture that shifted from bleak to possibility. Each laugh shared, each memory revisited, stitched a fabric of resilience between them, creating a lifeline that grounded them in this storm. Jamila recognized the importance of living in each moment. Fighting against despair by connecting with love. As they left the room, the fluorescent lights buzzing softly overhead, Jamila captured a glance at Ethan. There was a promise in his eyes, a commitment that re-energized her spirit. "Ready for the next leg of this journey?" he asked, a warm smile breaking his seriousness. "More than ever," she replied, her confidence threading through her voice. As they stepped into the hallway, the urgency of uncertainty still lingered but was overshadowed by the light they now clung to. A feeling of hope wrapped around them like a shield as they began to step forward, united in heart and spirit. Together, they were ready to embrace the battles ahead. The world outside beckoned, a world that was uncertain yet vividly alive with potential. Jamila's heart beat in rhythm with the lifeblood of those she loved, echoing a profound truth born from their shared struggle: they were never alone. Together, they forged ahead. Now, I can't stress enough how crucial your support is. You need to subscribe now to this channel for more inspiring stories like this one. And leave a like now to feed the algorithm so we can keep bringing you these emotional journeys. Comment your thoughts about this incredible ending. What did it mean to you? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support is what makes all of this possible. Show that you're a true fan, and let us keep this story alive.